webinar, but it is the first under the name ID Analytics. So that's why we're trying to make it take a different dimension this time around, and doing a whole lot of work on the background under the brand name. And that's why, same as though this is the first webinar in this series. I really want to appreciate every one of us who has made our time to be here with us this evening. Thank you so much. And we hope to make our time here worthwhile. In the next 55 minutes, we would have some things to discuss together. And I'm hoping that every single person that joins this would have one or two things to take out of today's session. All right, so just very quickly, this webinar, like I mentioned, and as probably we can see already, it's sponsored and brought to us by ID Analytics. So ID Analytics is a training firm specialized in data analytics. And so they are the ones who brought to us this particular webinar. And again, this webinar would happen monthly, hopefully. And so this is the May 2025 edition of the webinar. Most likely the last Saturday of the month, we'll be having webinars like this. And I would implore every one of us to try as much as possible to keep tab of our LinkedIn page. There would share a few information as regards our offerings and also as regards our webinars when they're coming up. So very quickly about myself, my name is Muhsin. So I am the lead facilitator at ID Analytics. We have a couple more other persons who facilitate our trainings, but at this time, I lead the team of facilitators. So I've been in this space for quite a while, 5 years plus. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I've trained over 30,000 participants at different platforms, of course, not necessarily on ID Analytics platform. And I've also, because I have a background in consulting, so I've built numerous analytics systems for different clients across varying industries. This time in Nigeria here, I serve as the Community Technical Officer for Nigerian Power Platform User Group. And for Oyo State chapter of that user group, I am a co-lead. So which for some people that were around at the University of Ibadan today, we had our global power platform bootcamp there, and so met a couple of persons. So like I mentioned at ID Analytics, I am the lead facilitator, and for my 9 to 5, I work at Promasido as a group BI developer. So for today, just so that I set some things in place, I will try, while this conversation goes on, I will try to also keep tab of what is coming on the chat. So if you have any question along the way, please do well to just drop that on the chat. We'll have some 5-10 minutes towards the end of this conversation to attend to questions. The agenda for today, this is how we're going to run this. I've done the welcoming already. I will lay a bit of foundation as to what should matter when you're building dashboards in Excel, why dashboard matters, what should be your focus, and would have a very slight demo, not slight in the sense that it's you'll get a few things from that demo. Some things will be clearer to you, hopefully, but it's not something that will take so much time, because within the time that we have within this 1 hour, that's where we want to try as much as possible to give clear expositions as to some of these topics and concepts. And after then, we'll have the floor open for Q&A. If we have a bit more time, we'll take a very short quiz, which whoever leads that would get something, which will be announced very much later. So I want to implore us, try as much as possible to stay through till the end of this conversation. So hopefully maybe you will be the lucky person that would win this. But again, the quiz will be from the conversation that will happen. So you need to pay attention. You need to take notes possibly so that you're able to answer the quizzes if we have some time to get to them. Okay. There are a bit of assumptions, which is in the line of you probably have been building some solutions, maybe in your capacity at your workplace, maybe you're an analyst, or maybe you're a student, and then you think at some point this is a path that you would like to follow, or this is a career that you have chosen and you would want to follow through on this. And so you're trying to prep yourself with some skill sets that would make you excel, that will cause you to excel in that particular path. Whenever we are talking about reporting, so you're trying to build report for stakeholders in the business, the very first thing that should be clear to you is that whatever report you're building, whatever dashboard you're building, you are not building them for your own consumption. You're building those reports, you're building those dashboards for people to make use of them. So if you're building them for people, then you should have them in mind first. They should be at the top of your mind. They should be the ones that you lay 100% focus on so that you do not derail, you do not get them something that is not usable to them. A lot of the times you hear people say that they are Power BI developers, they are Power BI analysts, they are data analysts, they are business intelligence analysts, whatever their roles are, and you hear them complain that they come up with a lot of reports within the organization, but no one uses them. Why do you think such thing happens? A lot of the time is because of you not trying to stick by some of the things that we want to talk about now. But the bottom line for all of this is you need to bear in mind that you are not building the report for yourself. And so if you're not doing that for yourself, you need to ensure that you put in mind those that you're going to build that for. So those that you're going to build up for, they are the stakeholders within the business. What then is important to them? The very first thing that is important to them is that they want clarity. They don't want complexity. They want something that is clear, that is easy to use, that is simple to use. Many times you hear, probably some of us might have heard this complaint from some senior guys in the industry, where they talk about the stakeholders, even after they have built some reports in Power BI, the frequent request that they get still is that they want an export to Excel. Why does that happen? So a lot of the times is because of the complexity that comes with whatever report you have built for your users. Maybe they are not able to navigate your reports properly, or maybe they don't understand what some things even mean, or maybe some things are just overly complicated, and so they want something simpler. So the first thing is that ensure that you eschew any form of complexity within your report. The next thing is accuracy and consistency is important to them. Accuracy in the sense that whatever you are giving to them, they are going to use that to make decisions. So if they are going to use that to make decisions, then it becomes imperative that you should ensure that whatever you are giving to them are things that you have validated yourself. I see people come up with reports today, and then when it comes to they doing a presentation, you hear them they start mumbling words. They are not so clear because they themselves they don't understand what some numbers mean. This is not something that is expected of anybody in this space. So ensure that you validate all your numbers are accurate, your reporting tools or your reporting items in terms of the artifacts that you use in your report, the shapes, the color, the theme, everything, you are consistent with them, even up to you formatting your numbers properly. So if you are formatting your numbers to 2 decimal places for all currency related numbers, be consistent with that. If for all item or units, you are formatting to a single decimal place, be consistent with that, such that anybody that says it, even without looking at the heading, they already have an understanding that, oh, so this is probably a unit figure because it is formatted to 1 decimal place. Your report must have ease of interaction. They should be able to filter properly your report. They should not be clicking on a filter and nothing is happening. They should not be trying to drill down to some specific elements within your report and then something is not coming up the right way. So you need to ensure that you build a report in a way that it is highly intuitive in how they're going to navigate the report, and it makes life easy for whoever is using the report to get down by way of filtering down the reports to what is important to them. Your report has to be up to date. You shouldn't provide users, stakeholders with reports that is not up to date. Up to date in the sense that if there is data as at yesterday, your report should already capture that data as at today. If there is data as at last 1 hour and they already told you from the inception that you're going to build a report in near real time, then you should ensure that your report is in near real. Of course, this is a different conversation that we may take a bit of time on trying to build a real-time report or near real-time report. But again, this is not the place for that. But the point I'm trying to drive out here is that you need to ensure that your report is up to date. And your report should be visually appealing, not distracting. You should try as much as possible to eschew all forms of clutter. Those are things that you need to ensure that you put in place in your report. And so when you take care of all of those things that have been mentioned, accuracy in your report, consistency in your report, clarity in your report being timely and up to date, you would have a better reception to your report. And you probably would even get more positive feedback from a lot of the reports that you'll be churning out. When we now narrow things down to Excel, Excel has different tools within it that we can use to build reports within that engine. Remember, Excel is a spreadsheet application, and one of the things that you use a spreadsheet application for is to sort of run some analysis. So if you now want to analyze data in Excel, there are a number of ways, or there are a number of tools within Excel that you can put together to run your analysis. We'll look at only one of them in the course of this conversation. Hopefully, some other webinars that will come from ID Analytics, we probably would take turns to look at some other of these ways that I'm going to mention. But just take note of this ways for now. The very first one is that when you want to analyze data in Excel, you have your data sitting in Excel, you have the option to use a combination of formulas and functions to analyze the data. So there are myriads of functions that are available in Excel. So if you look at the Excel function library, as at this time, we probably have maybe up to 400 or 500 functions available in Excel. So it's just a lot. It's a very rich library that you can use a combination of some of them to get to the root of what you're looking for in your data set. The next one is what is called pivot tables. So pivot tables, a lot of people probably already know this. But a lot of people, even when they know this, they don't really comprehend the power that is inherent within this particular tool. So pivot table is a data summarization tool. Data summarization in the sense that it just draws you quicker to some things that you probably would want to know about your data set. Today's session will be focused on that, and we'll see how you can be a bit more dynamic with the way you use your pivot tables. Remember, I said pivot table is a data summarization tool. Next is, because your pivot table has some limitation, to cater to these limitations, to make up for them, we have another tool within Excel, which is called Power Pivot. So Power Pivot is a different engine that sits within Excel that can extend the possibilities of you working with data in Excel, especially because of the fact that Excel has a limitation in the number of rows that it can contain. As at this time, Excel can only go 1,048,576 rows. So if you have data that you want to analyze and you want to use Excel for that data and it has much more than that, you will need the Power Pivot to extend that possibility. And so to now use that to accommodate the data, build a data model on top of that, and you can now use a pivot table to analyze the data. And with the Power Pivot, it has a particular calculation language, which is called DAX. For people that are coming from Power BI background, you probably would also have heard about DAX. So DAX is data analysis expressions. Data analysis expressions, and that is the language with which you write any calculation that you want to write within Power Pivot or within Power BI. So you can extend the possibility of pivot tables by adding Power Pivot to it and DAX. Then we also have the cube formulas. So cube formulas, there are some ways of writing calculations, which not many people use them these days, but they hide in a number of functions in Excel. If you go to Excel, you do equal to cube, you'll see like 8 different functions there that are from the cube formula family. They are used to also write some kinds of calculations, and they sort of have a different way than the usual Excel. The way they run, the kind of engine they run on. But again, there are some interesting calculations that you can use them for if you really do understand what they do. Then lastly, we have the array functions. Array functions are newer functions in Excel. They started coming around some years back, but we have quite a bit of them now, maybe about 20, 30 of them now in Excel, or slightly more than. They are called array functions because whenever you're working with a function in Excel, what normally happens is as soon as you hit enter, while you're doing a calculation in Excel, Excel returns a single result that naturally will sit inside a single cell. Although before now, there is the capability to manage this such that if you are expecting a particular calculation to return multiple results, you are able to do that using the CSV function, but that is not a conversation here. But array function were naturally built to return multiple results. So when you work with array functions in Excel, you have the possibility, you have the tendency to have your function return multiple results as against the single result that sits within a single cell in the Excel usual way. So just to simply put, array functions, they are functions that are capable of returning multiple results. So those are the different ways of working, of analyzing data in Excel. So for this particular conversation today, we would be limiting our focus to using pivot tables to analyze a particular data set. So this data set as well will be shared it's publicly available anyways, but again, we can't have it as part of the emails that will be sent out after this webinar. We'll stop sharing this particular screen now. So I want to go quickly into the demo, and so we can see what we can achieve with the pivot table, putting all of the rules that we have said, putting them in mind. So please follow through with this in the next 15-20 minutes. We should be done with this, and then we should start taking questions. All right. So this data set that we see here on my screen, this data set is a sales data. Just 1 second. I want to quickly activate the zoom feature. Okay. So this is a sales data, and we have our transactions recorded on this particular data set. So if you look at this, we have about 9,000 rows, but the row IDs are scattered somehow. That's why it's not looking arranged. But again, we can work with this just to drive home the points that we want to drive home today. So now we have our order ID here. So this order ID is what tracks specific order that our customers have come to make or to buy, things they've come to buy from us. So every single row that you see on this data set serves as a transaction. So it's more like you going into a store, a superstore, or you're going into a mall, you're going to a supermarket, a supermarket, whatever it is. You go in there, you place an order for something, or you pick some items from the shelf, you trolley that down to the cashier or whoever is going to assist you, the salesperson. They pull those together, they issue you an invoice. The output of the invoice that you are getting, the output is an invoice that you are getting, the input still sits within the system. And that is what could come out as the different transactions that you see here. So every single line here is a transaction made by somebody. So now we now have the order date. We have the order date here. That was the date that the particular transaction happened. Then we have the shipped date. That's on the day that the product was shipped down to the customer's location. We have the ship mode. Here we have the customer ID. That's the person that actually transacted with us on every specific order that we see here. We have the customer name. We have also put our customers into different segments. So our customers can either be of the corporate segment, or they are on the consumer segment or the home office segment. So we have sort of categorized our customers into this segment as well. And here we have we have here the city that the customer is from, just some geography about the customer here. And we have some product related information as well. So the product ID, the product category, subcategory, the product name. And now we have the managers for our store. Then we have the metrics here. So these are the quantitative data that we have. So sales, how much did we realize from every single transaction there? How many units of the item was sold? What discount was allowed on that particular transaction? And what profit did we get from that transaction? So we want to start building out something from this particular data set now. So the very first thing is this. So when you want to start building out a report, you need to have the end in mind. You need to have the end in mind, in the sense that if you are running this analysis one time, what does that mean? If this is a one-off analysis that you're running, you probably need not worry about this, because you know that there will not be any need for you to add to this data. This data is static, so you're building the report once and for all. But if you know that you probably would need at some point in time to update this data set, maybe this is a real work environment, and you're going to you will get more transactions that will be added onto this simple spreadsheet, then one key thing, one very important thing that you must start with is to ensure that you convert this data set to a table. Important rule: convert the data set to a table. I've already done that. So how do you convert the data set to a table? You can click anywhere within the data, you press Control L, or you do Control T. Either of the two would work to convert the data into a table. Alternatively, you do not remember the shortcut, you can always come here to the Insert tab, and under the Insert tab, you see the option to insert a table. So because this is already a table, that is why that option is grayed out. So now, after you've converted the data into a table, then the next thing is we want to start building out our pivot tables. So we need to first insert a few pivot tables to get the kind of information that we want from that data first, after which we can now go on to now create the dashboard that we want to create. So now, if I want to insert a pivot table, I come here to the Insert tab. So I come in here to the Insert tab, I go to Pivot Table. At the far left, you see Pivot Table. Once I click on that, we are going to see a dialog box. So let me quickly find where that is. So it's here. So we see a dialog box that pops up. And this just tells us quickly that, okay, so it's trying here to identify the range. That is, what area of your data do you want to use in this pivot table? More like asking you, where is the data that you want to summarize? So you're seeing this already. Excel can figure out that this has been formatted into a table, and I gave the table a name, sales data. So every other information, you can leave it as the default. Maybe some other time we can have more advanced conversation on pivot table. So we are just trying to drive home a point today. So I'll come here, I'll click on OK. So once I click on OK, so pivot table has some pivot table fields here, and then we have a few buckets here. So every single thing that you see on the pivot table fields here, they are your headers from your data set. So they actually came from the data set. Those are the headers. And then at the bottom here, you have the pivot table fields. So we have the values bucket, we have the columns, you have the rows, you have the rows here, and then you have the filters. All right. So now, how do you determine what goes where? Think about it this way. Your data can be of two types. It's either your data is categorical, which is the same thing as saying it is quality, or it is quantitative. So your data is either quantitative or it is qualitative. So if your data is quantitative, what that means is that your data can be aggregated. The column from your data that's quantitative contains numbers that when you aggregate it would make sense. Think, for instance, if you look at what we have here, we have some things like sales, quantity, discount, and profit. Those are quantitative data because we can say total sales, we can say average profit, we can say maximum discount. We can aggregate, we can do some calculations on that column or on those columns, and it will make sense. But if, on the contrary, if you pick the items in that column and you see that you cannot aggregate it, or if you aggregate it, it would not make sense, then you would say that that column contains qualitative data or categorical data. And essentially what qualitative or categorical data, what they do is that they give context to your quantitative data. They make you understand your quantitative data better. So for this case, I'm just going to quickly create some pivot tables very quickly so that we can see what's possible. So for now, I'm just going to come here, and then I will assume I want to create a report that shows us our different business categories. So we have the product category here. So I'm just going to check the box for category, and then I'll come here to select the sales. So if I go here to my pivot table now, you see here very quickly, we have the three categories that we run as our business lines: furnitures, office supplies, and technology. And almost immediately we can see the summary here, how much we realize within the period that we are analyzing in those three lines. So which is why pivot table is said to be a data summarization tool, because it gets you quickly or it gets out for you summaries within your data in a very quick manner. All right. So, but now we also would like to do some calculations, in the sense that we don't want to look at these numbers as they are, just the raw figures. One of the things that would make sense to the business is to do some variance calculations or ratios. And what does that mean? We want to be able to pick each of these numbers and compare it to the total, to say that, for example, in the furniture line of business or in the furniture category, the 741,000 that we see here is actually 50%, or it is 40%, or it is 30% of the total that we got. That way, because you have converted the number into percentages, it brings it closer to your stakeholders to sort of relate better with, to say that, okay, so what that tells us is, if the furniture line gave us 50% of our revenue, it probably means the furniture line is doing the best. And so many times when you're building business dashboards, you should ensure that you do not just give people raw figures. You try to do some ratios, some variances, some comparison to the total, to some other metrics, so that they are able to relate better with it, and then so that they have a quick interpretation in their head as to what is doing well and what is not doing well. So when you're not working with a pivot table, if you want to use, so what that means is we'll need this particular column to come in a second time for that particular calculation that we want to run. So for that to happen, what you would do is, if you go here to your pivot table and you go here to check the box again, it goes off. So rather than doing that, once you have it the first time and you need it again, what you would do is to drag that same field and you drop it in the values bucket. So now you see sum of sales 2, it has come into the values bucket. And so if I come here on my pivot table, you see now that we have the numbers here a second time. So we'll do the same thing for the quantity. So I just come here quickly. I check the box for quantity first time, and then I drag it in the second time because I want to do the same calculation on there. Then I pick up discount. I also drag down discount into this a second time, and then I also would select profit, and I bring in the profits in here a second time. So now, if you look at what we have on our pivot table, so we have those columns, they are duplicated. So the first one is what we use to retain our numbers, and the second one is what we use to do our calculation. So how do I do a calculation here, comparison of each of these numbers to the total? What I would do technically is to just right click on any of the numbers. I come here to show values as, and then I can say this should be the percentage of the column total. So the column total is the total that you see at the bottom of that column. So if I now say that, it should run a calculation that would compare each of the numbers as a percentage of the column total. What that would mean is that it picks each of the numbers that you see in those cells, and it compares them to the total by way of saying that's number divided by total. It gives you a number in decimal, and then it's formatted in percentages, so something like that. So once I click on OK here, then you see that now we can see this number looks big, really, for furniture, but actually it is just 32% of the total revenue. And at a glance now, we can already see that technology is the best category for us, because technology is, or has given us within the period, 36% of our total revenue. So very quickly, I will do the same for the second column for quantity. So I come in here, percentage of column total. I do the same for discount. I do a right click here, show values as percentage of column total, and then I do the same thing for profit. Right click, show values as percentage of column total. All right, so now we have this here. So let's just create a second pivot table. So what I would do is I will just highlight the existing one. So I don't need to go back to my data set. So I can already just say highlight this existing one. I copy it, Control C. I come somewhere down here and I do Control V. But for this, guys, I want to sort of measure the same set of metrics, but I only want to change the category. That's the qualitative data or the categorical data there. So instead of looking at these reports broken down by the product category, I want to do this time by the ship mode. So I just come in here to the pivot table fields. I take out the product category and then I bring in the ship mode. So if I drop that on the row labels, and now you see here, we have the ship modes here and the same calculation just runs. Okay, so lastly, so that we can proceed to something else, I will just want to create one more pivot table. Yeah, maybe one more. So I'll pull this down here. I'll drop it here. Then I will clear everything that's on this pivot table. So I take out this. I take out this guy. Take this out. Take this out, take this out. So if you look at our pivot table now, you see that we have a clean pivot table, just the placeholder here. But for this one of the most important reports that you can also ever have is a trend analysis. So you want to show your stakeholders how your business is trending. Is it going up, progressing, or is it dipping month on month, day on day, week on week, regardless, depending on what they attribute or what data attribute you use in your reporting. So it is very much important because it is by that they will be able to track what is going on within the business. And it is by that they can get to also make some instantaneous decisions as to what is right within the business and what is not, so they can try to fix whatever is not doing so well. So I'll come here to pivot table fields. So I'm just going to select our order date. So we want to look at this report by the order date, and we want to look at our sales. So let's see how is our sales growing. So if I come here now, depending on the version of Excel that you're using, you see that for me, I only dropped the date column into the row labels and it got aggregated. So it got aggregated, it got rolled up, got grouped because of the version of Excel. So for some people, it may not be grouped. So if you drop any date field into your pivot table and you have something like this, so you see what you see instead are individual dates like this. What that tells you is that maybe it's due to the version of Excel or some settings that someone has put on your Excel. So what you would do to group them however you want it is to now go to any cell that has a date, that is on the column that has a date on your pivot table. You do a right click there, and then you come to this option that says group. So when you come to this option that says group, if you click on that, you get a dialog box here that's now asking you how you want to group your dates. Do you want to group by seconds, by minutes, by hours? Again, you will only be able to group by those if you have a date time sort of column. So, but for this, because we have only the date portion, you will not be able to group by seconds, minutes, or hours. So we can group by days, which is what is currently there, or we are able to group by month, by quarter, or by year. So for this case, I would just want to group it by the month and the year. So I'll just click on the year as well. You see 2 items are selected at this time. So which means my dates will be grouped by year. So I'll say the year first, then I'll see all of the months under that year. So I click on OK. And now what you will see here is we now have 2023, 2013, and under 2013, we have all of the months. And we see here just next to it how much we actually made in 2013. And now going down, we have how much we made in each of the months. So one thing here is this. Excuse me. So if you look at this now, I also would not like to present the actual number. Although you might want to, you might leave it, but it's also important that you do some variance calculations as well on this. What do I mean? A calculation that would make sense here because of what we said, so what I did there erroneously was I double clicked on any of the cells, and that's why it went into the details. So now, one thing that normally would happen is you want them to be able to see how you're growing month on month. What do we mean month on month? So January 2013, we had a revenue of 14,236. We now may want to now say that, okay, from January to February, we want to compare how much we realized in January to how much we realized in February and see whether there was an increase or there was a decrease. Obviously, we already would see that there was actually a decrease. So our revenue decreased from January to February. But from February to March, it picked up again. But here we can see that visually looking at the numbers, but importantly, we also would want to know by what percentage did this increase happen or this decrease. So what I would do instead is we'll go the same route as we went the other time. So I right click, and then I come here to show values as. But for this, I would come here to this option that says percentage difference from. So when I select this option, so we'll get to see there will be a dialog box just here. So what this dialog box is asking is it's asking for what you want to compare by. So which is the base item that you see here. So for this base item, if I click on this drop down, you have a couple of options. And this option is super useful, especially when you want to benchmark a particular month. So let's say that within your business, you realize that the month of February is always the best month for you. You sell the most in the month of February. You may want to benchmark February and then compare every other month against February and see how close or how far are the individual revenues from what you realized in February. That's an excellent thing to do. But for our case, we want to do a month-on-month comparison to compare the current month to the previous month to see if there was an increase or there was a dip. So what I would do instead is to select previous here. So once I select previous and I do OK, keep your eyes on this. So this is what happens. So now maybe somebody can already tell why we have a blank for January. So we have a blank in January because January has no previous month. So from January, whatever we got in January to February, this already tells us that our revenue went down by 68%, whooping 68%. When we compare what we realized in February, we compare it to what we got in January. So, but from February, if you look at the revenue in February compared to the revenue in March, we actually had an increase of up to 1,000%. When you compare the numbers in February to the numbers in March. So this again will bring closer to your stakeholders how you're faring within the business. So at a glance, anywhere they see a negative, it already signals something into their brain that something is not going right. Unlike you just showcasing the actual numbers, looking at the actual numbers, it may seem good for them, it may seem nice to them, it may seem like everything is going well, but you need to make a difference by way of you showing them what is happening. So just 1 second, I think somebody's mic is opened. Okay, so sorry about that. I actually just saw that the microphone was blinking up. So because the speaker of the system was muted, so I didn't even hear it. All right. So now, when you look at this now, so we have this report. So just very quickly, if I want to sort of duplicate this, so we have something for profit as well. So I can just put this guy here, and then instead of sum of sales, I just take out sum of sales, and then I had the profit in here. So once I do that, I just want to alter this calculation as well very quickly. This calculation should also do a percentage difference from, and then it should compare to the previous. All right, so we have this. Now, let's assume that this caters to all of the reports that we want to build. Now, the next thing is to now turn this into a dashboard. So what we're going to do quickly is first, I want to create a new worksheet here. So I'm creating a new worksheet here, and I would just want to set the interface just to have less of an Excel look and feel. So first thing I would do is to go to view, and then I turn off the grid lines. So the grid lines are the lines that you normally would see that divides the columns and the rows in Excel. So I've turned that off. So we have a clean interface now. And one thing I naturally would also do, because I don't want my reports to start from the very edge. So I just highlight a few rows and I collapse it this way. And then sometimes I just collapse a bit at the top as well. So I leave it here. Remember that you are building for people and not yourself. So what I will do here is just to add a descriptive title, ID Analytics Sales Dashboard, something like this. And I can just try to format this by way of using the cell style. So if I go here to the Home tab, and then I come here to formats, come here to, no, not formats. So where are the cell styles here? Yeah, so these are the cell styles. So I come here, drop down. So it's the heading one. So this comes like this. So what I would do next, very quickly, is now to sort of bring in what I have on my pivot tables. One interesting thing that you need to know is that sometimes your stakeholders actually would want to see tables. They want to see the numbers the way they are, and not necessarily you turning every single thing into a chart. So if you are in a situation where you would want to bring in the data from your pivot table, you want to use that as it is on your dashboard, then there is a trick to it. Your pivot tables, even though it allows you to format it, it gives you some flexibility, you can format it to look nicely, you may not be able to get it to the exact taste and the exact feel that you want for it. So what you might want to do is I come here, and then first I'll try to recreate all of the headings that we have. So if I come here to where my pivot tables are, so I can just do something like this. If I try to copy all of these headings here, Control C, I come here to my dashboard, I do a Control V, but I don't want all this formatting, so I just ask it to create the numbers, just some to format to paste the actual values. So, but for this row label, I know that this is my category, so I'll just do category, maybe I call it product category. Product category, and then this is sales. So this one is percentage of total. Then we have quantity, then percentage of total. Then we have discount, then we have percentage of total that's related to discount. And then I have profit and percentage of profit. So we have all of this. So what I will just do is to resize this slightly, something like this. Then I can now reference what I have on my pivot table. So I do just equal to here. Then if I come here to the sheet that has my pivot tables, can come here to this first guy here, this furniture. So I select it. You already see in the formula bar that this is showing sheet 2A4. So I hit enter, and now that comes in. So this is now showing furniture. But again, because I know that there's every tendency that maybe when I start filtering my reports, some data might be missing and I don't want it to show errors. So what I will do here is I will just add an error handling here. So I can say that if maybe I say something like if error, or if it's blank, whatever it is. So let's do if it's blank, because if it's blank, then it's going to show 0. So I don't want to show 0. So I do if it's blank, if whatever is here that I've pointed to from the other side, if it's actually a blank cell, I don't want it to show a 0. So what I want it to show is blank. Just display it as blank. Don't put anything in that cell. Otherwise, show whatever is in the cell. So I'll just copy this.
So I'll copy this guy, and then I just come in here, I paste. So I'll take out this bracket here, and then I close the brackets. So when I do that, nothing actually changed. So, but again, one interesting thing is because I already pointed to that cell, and I know that we have maybe like 3 or 4 rows below and some rows to the right based on the column headers that we see here. I can just highlight the rows that I think would come in, coming below like this, and I do Control D. So that would already just pick all of those from my pivot tables using the cell references. And if I take this to the right, I can do Control R, and that will pick all of the numbers. So where you see here, these are the numbers as we have on the pivot table. So then what I will do is I can now come here to these headers. I highlight the headers. So once you click on the first cell, you want to pick everything to the right, you do Control Shift forward arrow. So if I do that, I can make this bold, and then the maybe I'll also just like to reduce the font by 1 point. So then I come here to the items here, I highlight everything like this, and then I make this go 2 points downwards. And maybe just so that things look slightly different, I can now highlight all of the area where I have this report, and I give it a slight feel. Remember the rule, you don't want to give it anything distracting, so it's just something that would call out what is there. So now, just so that my numbers look nicer, I can highlight all my numbers like this. So I hold down Control, I pick what I have under the quantity column. I am still holding down the Control key. I highlight my discount, and then I come here to profits, and I just come here. So I give it 1,000 separator. So you can also do that using the shortcut Control Shift 1. And then for my percentages, so I highlight these percentages as well. So excuse me. So I come here, I highlight this guy. And then for this one, I highlight this, and you can format this as a percentage, or you press Control Shift 5. So because I have my zoom feature on, that's why I did something else. So I just do this. All right, so now we see that we have something that is coming to shape. So I'll just quickly bring up the second pivot table as well. So I'll just go here to copy the headers. So I come here, I just pick, I think the headers are pretty the same. So I'll just use the existing header here. So the only thing that will be different is the actual category header. So I highlight everything to the right, Control C to copy it. I go some steps downwards like this, Control V to paste it. And here, instead of now the product category, so this is going to be, I think this now be ship mode. So then I do equal to, because I want to bring up the numbers now. So I come here to it, and I point to the first cell here. I hit enter, so that comes in. But again, I want to do the same thing because I don't want some blanks in here. So I do if is blank, if this is blank, so because I will need this guy, so I'm just gonna copy it. So if it's blank, make it blank. I need to close the bracket for is blank. If it's blank, make it blank, otherwise return whatever is there. So nothing would change. Now I can go a few steps downward, Control D, and to the right, I do Control R. So all the numbers have come in now. And so we'll just do some quick formatting. So now I'll just highlight the numbers. Control Shift 1. So I'll come here, the discount, Control Shift 1. So we can start putting together our questions now. And then for the percentages, can highlight the numbers. So and then I come here and format this as percentage. Okay, so then maybe for quantity, we probably don't need the 2 zeros. That's the decimal places. So I can come here to this guy and take out the decimal places. So what I will just do is I'll give this the same field. That's the background. So I'll do this for this guy. Sorry, it's something else is interfering on my screen or with my screen. So I will just do this here. Then I can take all this down 1 point, and then for the headers, I just give this 10. So this is here. Then lastly, we have 2 other pivot tables. So what I would do with this, I can turn this into a chart, Alt F1, that is the shortcut. So it gives us this. Again, there's a way you can set the default so it doesn't show this. So I just take out all the field buttons on this chart. I take out the grid lines. I take out the legend, and then maybe a few other things. So now this axis that you see that it's sort of overlapping with the data area. You can actually set it. So if I go to format axis, so we have the window open here, and if I go here to the labels, so that's the labels on the axis, you have an option here that says where should the label position be. I can say that it should be low. So if I not sure that was picked. Yeah, so if I come back here, I click on this drop down, I select low. Once I select low, you see now the axis a bit now dropped. So you can even define how down it should go. So all of those options are available. So I'll just pick this for now, just for the case of this, so we can start rounding up. So if I come here, I can place that somewhere here, maybe somewhere like this. And then another thing I want to do quickly is we want to ensure that the report is interactive. So I come here to our pivot tables again. 1 second. So I come here to the pivot table. I just click on any of these pivot tables and I go here to pivot table analyze, and I say should insert a slicer. So for our slicer, let's say we want to be able to slice by the regional managers, and I want to also be able to slice by, let's say, the year. So I'm inserting 2 slicers. I click on OK. So the 2 slicers are here. So I select both slicers, Control X to copy, to cut rather. Then I go here to our dashboard and I come here. So I come here now and I paste it. So let's just format this quickly. So I pick this first one. I want it to be somewhere here, but I want it to be horizontal. So I'll just come here to the slider settings. I increase the columns because I know that we have 4 items there, so I can increase the columns to 4. So if I increase the columns to 4, then the other thing I can do is I want to take out this region managers, so which is the header there. So I come here to the settings. This display header option, I take it out. I click on OK. and now I can just expand this to the right, something like that. So I expand this. Of course, you can go on to format this to look however we want it to look. So I'll do the same thing for the year slicer. So I increase the column also to, I want to make it 4. I make it 4. Then I come here to the slicer settings. So I also don't want to see the headers. So I take out the header here. And then I also want to hide items with no data. So those are the ones that you see that are grayed out here. So that's the default. You can actually ask it to take it out completely. So I click on OK. Now I can bring this one here. So I bring this guy to this side, and then I sort of would bring it here. Okay, so now maybe the last thing that you may want to quickly do here, for instance, for this particular case, is because we want to give as much clarity to our stakeholders as possible. So I can come here to say that we want to know which product with the highest sales. So I can just call this column highest sales, something like that. And then I say something like equal to, check whatever is the sales amount, or let's say if whatever is the sales amount is equal to the maximum sales amount. So the maximum of these 3 numbers. So I wanted to check if I want to check what the maximum of these 3 numbers is. That's essentially what I want to do. So if whatever is in each of the cells is equal to the maximum, I want to repeat. So I'm supposed to put a comma here. So I want to repeat whatever is in the cell, otherwise make it blank. So I hit enter here, enter, then I copy this down like so. And now you already would see that for this particular data set and for what has been filtered, technology is actually the highest, with the one with the highest sales. So this is just a way of bringing out to our stakeholders what they are looking for at a glance. So and then we can do the same thing for profit, highest profit. So I do the same calculation, equals to if whatever is in our profit column, if it's equal to the maximum of our profit numbers. I'm just going to lock this before, because I want to put it down. If it is, then return the profit, otherwise make it blank. So I hit enter, and then I pick down these guys. So as expected, we probably would already think that whatever gives us the highest sales would give us the highest profit. But I can tell you that that may not be the case. So let's try to filter our report. So if I select this person, so what you would notice is that when I select this Anna, the highest sale for Anna actually came from the furniture line of business, but our office supplies line of business is actually more profitable. That is for Anna. So for her, she's selling more of furniture, and maybe because she's giving quite some discount, or maybe some other things are happening in terms of the cost or whatever it is. But this is something that already will spark some conversation with the stakeholders that, okay, you are selling more of furnitures, but you are not getting as much profit as you're getting from office supply. So why? So and this would lead you to conversations around how you can better the business. So essentially what we've tried to drive out here in this webinar, as we need to start to wrap up, is that you don't necessarily have to overcomplicate anything within the dashboard. You just need to think through with the user's lens and see what would actually make them or draw them closer to those decisions that they want to make, and see how you can incorporate that within your report. Also, what you probably would have noticed is that when I select some things on the slicer, it's only affecting the table at the top, and nothing is happening to the table below. This is actually because of the fact that the slicer was inserted on that particular pivot table. So what you may want to do is you can select the slicer here. This will be the last we're going to show today. So we select the slicer here, and then you come here to the slicer tab. You see this option here for report connections. If I click on that, that's going to give us a dialog box. And here, the only pivot table that you see checked, that is the pivot table that is connected to the slicer. And that is the reason why the slicer is only affecting one pivot table. So if you want it to affect every other one, you just need to check the box for all of the other pivot tables like so. And if I click on OK at this point, so 1 second, if I click on OK here now, you see now that whatever we are selecting on this slicer now is going to affect every single pivot table that you have on your report. Okay, so I'm hopeful that maybe this was useful to everybody on the call. Thanks again for joining. If you have a few questions, please, you can use the raise hand icon so that we can take that in a minute or two before we close the webinar for today. We are out of our time by some minutes already. Or if you prefer to type your questions on the chat, please let's do that very quickly so we can call this a wrap. Anybody, any question, any question, any questions? Any questions, anybody? Okay, so if there are no questions, so very last thing is that we want to also inform us that yes, so at ID Analytics now we have a community that would like that we all try to join. So something is not going fine yet. Okay, so I'm just gonna bring this up quickly. So 1 second. So please, everybody, kindly do, if you would want to, but we encourage you to do, you may want to join our community. So we have the QR code on the screen. If you could try to scan that so you'll be a part of the community where we can further this conversation. And also to mention or to reiterate is that this webinar will happen every single month by God's grace. And so we can be sure to have some insightful or interesting conversations around this. And if you also join the community, you have some specific areas that you think that we should look at in some of our webinars, you can suggest that on the chat as well. Yes, the session has been recorded. The recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. I would also advise if you are able to, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel so you get notified when we have content put up there. Okay, those are the two things I can see on the chart. Thanks again, everybody. One more time. I will leave this screen up for 1 more minute, after which we're going to take everything down. Can we get the recording? Can we get the recording to further cement what we? Yes, like I just mentioned, yes, you will get the recording. That will be uploaded on the YouTube page. So you can try to also subscribe to that channel so you get notified. But again, I would also send emails after the webinar. After just when we close and the recording is ready, we will send emails to us so you'll get notified about that and you can catch up with it. Thanks a lot, Messi, for dropping the link on the chat. If you're finding it a bit difficult to scan the barcode, or the QR code, you can also use the link on the chat. That would grant you access to the community as well. Thanks again, everybody, and we hope to catch you again next month. Thanks and have a great evening.